Does she do me that way?
Say her name.
Yes.
We're live.
Couple minutes to load.
We're live.
We are live. Welcome back once again. Another week of the show about tomorrow. My man, Dr. Brunson, is in the house. As always, my name is Eze Jackson. We have a very, very, very special guest today, Miss Alicia Lee.
I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everybody. Hello, Eze.
How you doing?
Yes, I'm great. Happy to be here with y'all today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So you have several hats: singer, composer, conductor, arts educator. I'm sure you make a mean potato salad.
Absolutely not. But I know but I know who does. And that's what's important.
And that's the important part right there. Right. Resourceful.
That's right.
She's a Renaissance woman.
That's right.
Renaissance woman. I love it.
That's right.
I love it. So, of course, the show about tomorrow is about the future of Black families in Baltimore. We always love to have guests come on that are very active in arts, the community, all these things that affect, of course, Black families, future of Black families in Baltimore. Right before we went live, we were talking about, I want to start with your girls' choir.
Sure, yeah, please.
Because I think that's interesting. They're coming back, outside's opening up. We're starting to do more in-person stuff. Tell me more about the girl choir, how you started it and where y'all are now.
Absolutely. So, I grew up here in Baltimore. So, growing up, I grew up as a member of, I was in a choir called In Full Effect, which was a gospel choir with kids from all over Baltimore City and County. And we would travel. I mean, we had no time for getting in trouble and doing, we had no time for really even like drinking up at park. We didn't really have time. We were always traveling and performing, right? And I went to Performing Arts High School in Towson, so we were doing stuff there. But that youth choir experience really shaped a lot of my development.
Wow.
I went on and I went to, get my degrees in vocal performance and all of that. And I started to, I learned about this program called LTYCNET, which is a music program in Venezuela, where Venezuelans were tired of this Eurocentric focus.
Mm-hmm.
They were tired of the classical music in their country only uplifting and highlighting white artists and European artists. And they said, we're here too. Yeah. And so they created their own thing. They said, forget it. If y'all want to, that's what y'all want to support. We're going to create our own orchestras. And at the time when they created, there were 2 national orchestras in Venezuela, completely filled with Europeans. There were music conservatories in Venezuela, but those musicians were brown and couldn't get jobs in the orchestra, right? This idea of, well, if you're brown, you're not white, you're not authentically playing classical music, right?
Mm.
So there's this great story, it's tragic, of a student walking across the stage to graduate from conservatory, and he burned his bassoon when they handed him his diploma, because he said, you were not going to hire me to work in my own country, so what's the point? And so that ethos, yes, and that ethos, that's how LTYCNET was born. This idea of let's do it for ourselves. In Venezuela, they do things like, if you are a new student and you don't know how to play any notes, they say, great, well, today you can learn how to play 1. This student started 2 weeks ago, he plays 2 notes. He's going to teach you to play the 1 that he mastered, okay? And then we'll keep moving you up, right? So that idea, that ethos of let's do it ourselves, let's be self-sufficient, and the excellence that has come out of Venezuela. Gustavo Dudamel is probably their most famous alumni. He's, of course, the youngest music director of a A-list orchestra in Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles. So, that level of excellence that we've now all they've changed the game of classical music. Now we all expect classical musicians to be able to show up with narrative, enthusiasm. How many times have I been to an orchestra concert and looked at everybody around me is asleep? They're wondering why I'm there as a Black person, but then they're asleep. those same people are asleep because they don't understand the music, right? We have to agree. They don't understand what's happening. They've bought it as it's a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
So Venezuela has changed all of that. Music is about community there. It's about communication. It's about the now, right? No matter the form. And it's not just orchestras over there. They've got rock bands. They've got gospel groups. They've got everything. It's music as a center. I was so inspired. So I was like, that taps to what I remember about being a young person, about a musical community transforming my values, showing me what collectivism can look like. And centering me with people that could be a part of my life forever. And so that's how Sister Cities was born. I did the System of Fellowship at New England Conservatory. So I got to go to Venezuela and work in those communities and work with teachers, learn beside them. And then I came back, started the program in Philly with 12 kids. And within 2 months, we had 100 kids.
Wow.
And, within 3 years, we had 400 kids.
Wow.
So we're in Philly and Camden. And then, of course, Freddie Gray happened. And I was in Philadelphia. And I remember I called my brother. We were watching CNN together. And I said, well, I'm moving back to Baltimore. And he said, we're very simpatico. He said, makes sense. Me too. So it took us about a year to figure out, well, how can the choir is called Sister Cities Girl Choir. How can the choir still subsist? My board was really supportive. I said, I've got to go back to Baltimore. I've got to start youth choirs there. I mean, there's just no way around that. It doesn't make, I have to go. Are y'all gonna support me or not? And they were like, okay. So I came back to Baltimore. We started some school choirs here. We were ready to launch a community all city choir, and then COVID happened, right? We were supposed to launch in 2020, September. So that's still happening. We're launching September 2021. The program is free. The program, we performed at Carnegie Hall, we performed at the Kennedy Center, and those are important things, but we've also performed at senior centers and churches and parties, and we're a choir that's of the community, it's for the community, but also this level of excellence, right? Where we've been identified as a nationally rated choir, youth choir, because of the excellence, but we represent the city. So our girls in Philly chapter, they're like, I represent the city of Philadelphia. Everywhere in this city I've been, I sang there, they loved me. And that's what we want for Baltimore kids. Yeah. Everywhere you look, like, oh, I sang there, or whatever. Everywhere. Right. The governor's house, the outhouse, the parking lot. This is my city, right? Yeah.
I love it.
This is beautiful. I love this because Philly for me for a long time, when I was performing with my band Soul Cannon, a lot years ago, Philly was like a second home. I love Philly. Philly, I have family from Chester, which is like 15.
Yes, Chester, PA, yeah.
But Camden, Philly, and Baltimore.
Yes.
The like thorough line there, the through line there, with the stories and the backgrounds and the histories and the
95. I'm yes.
Goosebumps right now. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about this Baltimore choir and seeing these Camden girls and these Philly girls and these Baltimore girls killing it.
Yes, absolutely. These cities are connected. A lot of us have families in all these cities, and if you're a musician, you definitely have friends in all three places.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Camden, especially like church musicians, like Camden Music, Thai Tribute, all of that. So a lot of folks, these three cities feel connected already for folks. It's not, if you're in the know, if you know. There's also, of course, socio-political connections between all cities.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As well.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important. And what we also see from Philly to Camden, we expanded the program to Camden because people kept saying, I was new to Philly, right? People kept saying, oh, yeah, this is great. We're going to help you, blah, blah. Just whatever you do, don't go over to Camden. It's terrible over there. The people are dangerous. They'll shoot you in the face. Oh, you can't go. And I was like, oh, great. And so I drove my car across the bridge. And I was like, they said I shouldn't come here. So I'm here. I started doing community meetings, and I would open with that. I was like, everyone said, don't come to Camden. So I reached out to some community leaders, and I'm here to say, how can we be of service? We want to start a girl choir, and how can we build this so that it's for you? What do you want out of that? And Camden reminds me a lot of Baltimore.
Yeah, me too.
When you Google the word blight, pictures of Camden and Baltimore pop up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's funny you talk about the Freddie Gray incident, because when it happened, a lot of people started to look at things that happened in Camden.
Yes.
And
Differently, yes.
and how they kind of, because they got a thing there where they approached community policing, and they
Yes.
had real serious issues.
They've done a lot better, right? There's, of course, we have a ways to go. I believe in some deeper ways, but Camden has really, especially for an urban city, developed, I would say, probably the strongest action plan. And then we've started to see more trust be developed between the police and community. And and I would say it's a definite step in the right direction.
Yeah.
The thing about it is I love your approach to it, because when they say don't go there, that's where we want to go.
That's
Because
exactly what, it's like, gotcha.
Yep,
That's where we're going.
That's where the need is. I remember feeling that way here in Baltimore, as I call it, the part of the city across the water, about Cherry Hill and Westport and Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn. And I remember being a young service provider and how many folks would admonish us to be careful and not go. And I said, you know what? Those are the type of schools we want to be in, where the needs are, where the people are the least, the last, the leftover, the looked upon. We want to be in that area, because that's often where the magic happens. That's often where the love is, the need is. And as it relates to the arts and talent, those are normally the most talented folks. They have the best stories. They have the best stories to tell.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that, because that's where the art is usually the center of art making. I mean, we look at Baltimore club music. A lot of our big heavy hitters in Baltimore club come from Cherry Hill and Westport, right? There's a reason for that, right? And the reason that the art is so rich is because art is a part of human nature.
Yes.
We don't bring art. I don't bring singing to no community. People are singing and dancing and drawing and painting and writing, regardless if they're human and alive. What happens in these communities, people call them art deserts, because there's not arts institutions there. They're not arts deserts. They're art gardens. They're just undiscovered. And people go harder there because they know they don't have the support. They build mutual aid connections, and that's how they're able then to make it a part of the business, make it into the business, make it into the limelight, because they build up the collective pieces of mutual aid. And collectivism works every time over these individual places. So you might rise up, there's your little individual stuff, but if you come from a community where you have no choice but to build a collective mindset, where you have no choice but to create informal mentorship structures, you have no choice, right, but to center it in the community, we help each other, then those are the communities where the art's going to be super rich, because it's connected from the people. It's different. So,
and it's funny because no, for real, when we first got on, right before we got on this morning, I was looking and I saw that Safe Streets, they're celebrating the second year of no murders in Cherry Hill. Wow. And they're celebrating. I believe it's 2 years. No murders in Cherry Hill, and that is a result of Safe Streets, of course, their community in there, and then there's a heavy arts investment now in Cherry Hill.
And Navasha Daya, shout out to her.
I was about to say shout out to Sister Navasha. They have the Waterfront Festival every year, where it's like they do the show on the waterfront, and it's all predominantly Cherry Hill artists performing. So Cherry Hill is like the perfect example. Is it at
that beautiful little like community center that's on the water there? Is that where they hold it?
That big space that's on the water, big grass space.
Yeah, that's a beautiful space.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I've been a couple years, and it's really dope. But that's an example of a community saying, okay, we can take care of our own.
That's right.
What do we need? We need the brothers, the OGs. We need the arts. You know what I'm saying? We need a little bit of politician help. You know what I'm saying? And they butt it together.
And first of all, the politicians owe you that help.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. They owe that community the assistance they need. But absolutely, we all got to work together. And those networks come in. At the Maryland Art Summit yesterday, we had DJ Marty Mark opened
my
the
man.
Maryland Art Summit. Okay.
That's what's
It was so good. His set was so good. And there's an awakening. There's more people, speaking of government, that work in government and art-based government that understand what art is, right? For so long, people wouldn't even have recognized that as art, right? People are thinking fine art, they're thinking paintings, a specific kind of paintings with a specific kind of style and a specific kind of surface, right? That music sounds like this, that's art. But we're expanding. We're showing up, more people of color, more Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian folks, leaders are showing up in these higher spaces and saying, you said that, no, this is what art is. Yes. And so, so that expansion happens, and that's why it's important to support Black leadership. It's important, especially in Baltimore City, to support Black leaders and make sure that we have Black people in these spaces that understand the community and understand how best to serve, and also understand to keep going back to the community, right? Because it's not just like, oh, I'm up here and I know, and I grew up here, so I know. It's I grew up here, so I know that I have to go back. That's what I know. That's what I know for sure. I don't know much else, is that I don't know. I know that the answers are there, and I keep going back there to say, well, what do y'all want? What do you think? What do you need? And so I'm seeing more leaders pop up that have that same ethos, and we see each other and we wink and we get it done. So
the answers are always inside of us. We have to stop looking for without and look from within.
Yes.
And together and decide, what we're going to do next, and just do it. Yes. Sometimes we can become a part of the rhetoric in our own community because we see the needs and we care, and we have a lot of conferences and talks and meetings and emails and
I'm not posts, about
that. and nobody's doing anything. That's why we know that, because that's why we got you on this show today, because we know you are about a woman of action. So talk to us more about the action and your vision that you believe Baltimore can benefit from arts education, arts and culture, arts and entertainment. Yeah. Do you see those things shaping the future of the Black family in Baltimore?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, my work at the State Department of Education, I oversee and promote fine arts education, and we're really looking and working to change that name even, right? That's the name I inherited, but to promote fine arts education for all Maryland public schools. The reason I'm in that position is because I firmly believe that there is nothing more important than uplifting art making across all disciplines: music, theater, dance, visual art, film. Yes, there's nothing more important than uplifting art making in communities if we want the world to change and be better. And what we know about the world is the world must change, right? But if we want to be a part of imagining that new future, an investment for a young person in an art education is an investment in giving them the tools for liberation. So Lucille Clifton, phenomenal poet, tells us that we can't create what we can't imagine. Wow. So if we know that the tools for revolution are in imagination, then you see why when they pull our music programs out of our Black communities, of low-income communities, of Asian communities, when they pull the music programs out first, you see the wraparound of that, because by giving people those tools, that's how they're able to imagine a new system. Someone imagined this terrible system that we're working in. Somebody imagined that.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And they created that to benefit those who was most important to them to benefit. We can use our imagination to create a new system that's rooted in new ideals, right? But we can't do that if we're not from birth having opportunities to engage in making and creating, turning our ideas into products, elevating them together in community. And that's the power of art making. And the reason I say art making and not art education is because it should be happening it should be looping around. In school, it should be happening where kids are seeing the art that they make with their families uplifted, and also learning, getting that window experience where they're learning about other types of art making as well. And then home, they should be communicating and say, I mean, how many of us sat around with our dads or moms playing records, listening, right? Learning how to knit or learning how to dye fabric. That's art. That's art. So we learn about culture and experience through art. So it's just so important for the Black family that I want to see more Black families know there's this piece that a lot of families in Baltimore do not know. what the law requires that their students have access to in education. So when things start getting pulled around, we think because we've been around a long time, well, yeah, when I was in school, we didn't really have all of that or this and that, but things are different now. So it's important that families know the state law requires that your students have access to music, theater, dance, visual art, and media art in their school.
Yeah. So what are the challenges though? What do you find are the challenges that prevent these arts from being in schools widespread and there being an equitable access to these arts by young people?
I think the challenges are the same challenges that we find in all urban education, right? But one of the ways that that we really held back is the messaging. I don't think families are aware how, and this is not a Baltimore City problem, this is a national problem. I don't think families are aware of what the laws are around how robust and what well-rounded education means. And so there is some intentionality about keeping that language vague and not providing a lot of access to making sure that the clarity. So when you look at your child's report card and see what classes they're being offered, you're like, well, look, they're getting good grades and everything's what you're not analyzing it. You're not doing that systemic analysis to say, well, are they receiving, how many hours of this are they receiving? What courses are they receiving? What access do they have to a diversity of courses? Are they receiving a well-rounded education? So there's some organizations that are doing great work. Art Every Day, shout out to them. Arts Every Day, led by Julia DeBusolo. And of course, Arts Education in Maryland Schools, which is led by Quanice Floyd. They are doing work to really elevate, they're the advocates, right? I work at the policy place and they work in the advocacy place. But this idea of just what I see as the most harmful piece, it's just everyone's not aware, everyone's not aware of what you should have. In Howard County, if they start pulling music programs out, those parents would say, that doesn't remind me of they've always had music in schools. So right, every school, right? So they would say, oh, that don't sound right to me. I know that a music program goes in a school, but when it happens maybe in Baltimore City or in Philadelphia, we go, do you have to have music? I'm not sure. I want my kids to have music, but I'm not sure if that's required. So folks need to know. Yes.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just folks need to know. Yes, it is required. And tap into some of these advocacy folks who are fighting to make sure that your kids have access to the arts in a robust way and also in alignment to state law. This is law. This is not procedure. This is actual law, regulations.
Yeah, and when people are familiar with the law, with the law, or aware that it is owed to them, it's a must. Then the culture changes, right? Right. As an arts educator, and Demell and I, we've been in and out of the schools for about 15 years teaching arts in the schools, and oftentimes you go into a school as an arts teacher, or just temporarily being there, and other teachers or administrators will show you how important your class is.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? When you go into a school, and it's all set up for you.
Yes.
That the arts are important.
Yes. And there's a lot of schools in Baltimore City where the principal, because I believe school culture is set by principal, the principal values the arts so deeply that when you walk into the building, the ethos is different. Yep. During pre-COVID times, I usually visit about 100 to 125 schools a year. I like to be out in the schools. I don't like to be at my desk. And when I'm at the Baltimore City schools that I visited, those are places where the principal has shared it's just in the air that the arts are valuable, that we live and breathe the arts. Right? The teachers are using arts integration in their classrooms. The arts teachers are given planning time and treated like professionals. The art lines the walls. You can see that the students are used to being asked to do creative tasks, right? And it's that the expectation is that you're attempting to think differently and outside the box. That affects academic learning because arts learning is academic learning. And that affects academic learning in all the other subject areas too, right? This idea that we have an expectation for you, not just to try your best, but to succeed and to think expansively, think at the top, what I always say, the top of your intelligence. That's an artistic principle. So we see that, I'm thinking about, Ernest Shaw and his work with his students. I'm thinking about Destiny Johnson and her work with Wide Angle Media. I'm thinking about the schools that I visited in Sandtown, the Baltimore Design School. I'm thinking about all of these Baltimore public schools, and of course the incredible leadership of Chanel Williams Howard at the North Avenue office, right? Folks who really believe in the potential of Baltimore City kids. And I have not met a principal yet who doesn't value the arts. That doesn't mean they're not out there. I haven't met all of them. I haven't met a principal who doesn't value the arts. What I more meet are principals who don't have the resources to supply what they need for their students at the same level of their beautiful, expansive vision for their students, right?
Yeah.
So because I haven't met any principals that of course there's nobody's 100, there's no 100% everybody's great. But when it comes to me and educators, I'm always like, I don't see these educators that I hear about on the news that are, I don't see those people. The people I see are all excited. They show up for their kids in big ways. They use their own money and resources to support their students. Mm-hmm. They're dipping into their family time to provide things for students. I don't know anybody who goes half steps in teaching. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but I've never seen them. Yeah. So it's really about like community support, policy change, and the intentionality of making sure that we can set accountability in the community.
Yeah.
Right. And that really does come from a policy level. Those pieces are policy places where anytime the community is not aware of what they should be holding folks accountable for, that's intentional to me.
Yeah, I love the perspective you put on that too, because the access to resources is an important thing. You know what I mean? I think you're right. Most principals want arts in the school. They want music in there, but they're just not getting the support and the funding from the community, from the board and or any of that stuff. You mentioned Ernest Shaw. I got a chance to work with him last school year at Green Street Academy.
Yeah, shout out to them.
And it was so dope because I know Ernest, and at the time I didn't know he was teaching at the same school, but the difference in the way the students interacted with him and the way they interacted with other teachers, the difference in his classroom, like you could go, like I remember the first time standing at the door of his classroom and feeling like a Zen, calming, relaxing feeling. I'm sure that whatever decor he has at his house is very close to what's in his classroom. You know what I mean? But consequently, the young guys at the school were very comfortable talking to Ernest. A lot of times when I had issue with two students in my class one time, and somebody said, well, Ernest, go talk to Ernest because he'll have them later in the day.
Wow.
And sure enough, they came into his class. He's like, what's up, man? You giving my man Easy trouble? Like first thing in the morning, I gotta hear about that. And I didn't have no more trouble out there after that. You know what I mean? So I'm just using that as an example of what you were speaking about is like, having these artists in the schools, having them interact with folks. I wanted to ask you something.
At that high level too, Easy, right? I mean, Ernest is an impeccable artist. I see the same thing happening over at Poly with Matt Adelberg, is running a dynamic visual art program and really elevated that art program to a ridiculous award achieving level, because this idea of really sending our best artists to train children. Yes, like let's give them our best. And the kids sense that. They sense the excellence from Ernest, his confidence, of course, his impeccable skill, right? And that's a part of his pedagogy. There's a lot of magical pieces in there that really makes for students that are just more able to learn, right? And you're bringing that too when you're in the school with them, right? You're bringing this high level of professionalism, this high level of like, I'm not just I used to make art. Right. Art is a part. I make art now. I am an artist. I didn't used to sing and then I stopped and started teaching you. No. I sang yesterday and then I woke up this morning and came here to teach you. Right. So that's a different level of teaching. And that's what we're also trying to get all arts teachers to aspire to, because the job becomes so burdensome. Lots of arts educators stop making. The job, the job is hard. It's hard. The hours are long, but we want to find time to support them in continuing to make, because that continuing to make gives you an authenticity when you're sharing your creative process with your students, that really helps them to break down and create their own process, right? Because then it's a studio experience. We're all artists here. We're all making, we all have ideas, and we're all working to share our ideas through music, dance, theater, visual art, painting, sculpture.
And it's authentic. It's authentic.
Authentic.
It's authentic when it happens that way, that practitioner style, that conservatory model, that energy of, hey, yeah, I know what I'm doing because I still do it.
I still do it. Yeah.
I still love it. I'm still involved. It's nothing, you know, being a student of the Baltimore School for the Arts, it was nothing like having my teachers there, you know, were working artists, you know, working actors, working directors, you know, and it was exciting to know that they were in a show or were filming a TV show or a movie. And we, you know, it made what they taught us, it gave it another level of validation.
Yes.
You know, and so
you never see a professional algebra person. It's like, oh, you know, on the side, Mr. Jones is a geometrist. It's like,
they must have that. We just don't know. It's a whole secret society that we don't. Somebody said at home going, yeah, they don't know about the geography. Dang, they don't.
That's hilarious.
Bring the abacus.
Mr. Johnson teach algebra. He's the algebraist by night, at night.
But imagine that same model, you know, that Baltimore School for the Arts model. Imagine if that, to me, that's the model, period, right? Is that our certified arts educators, we got to give them space. This is the next level dream, though. We got to give them space so they can continue to make. Your kindergarten music teacher should still be making. It should still, you know, and they have their finger on the pulse of what's happening currently. They know the new trends. Like, it's not just we learned in college and then we just carried whatever we learned 20 years ago for the rest of career or whatever. Like, that idea of art educator being practitioner, I think is super important for P to 20, you know, from pre-K through college, you know. We want people to keep making, but we got to give teachers space.
There we go.
Yeah. That's, you know, teaching is hard.
It is hard. It is hard, and it's thankless, and not enough money in it. And for people who do it, it is service. It is service. It is a mission from God to an educator. If you're just tuning in to the show about tomorrow, Eze Jackson, I'm Demell Brunson. We're here with Alicia Lee, Renaissance woman, educator, singer. You know I'm gonna make you sing before we get off of here, so just be ready. And she does everything, guys, and she's here talking with us just about how we can make the future of Black families in Baltimore brighter, more sustained, more invigorating, and be excited and hopeful about it. You know, hope is a powerful substance. You know, when you live your life and have expectations for greater. Shout out to LTYC, of course, our executive director, Dana Carr, our executive producer of this show, Brian Greenspan Dawkins, and from Baltimore with Love. So, you know, I want to just ask you, what other nuances do you believe that the arts can then connect us to as we're building this new generation of young people here in the city of Baltimore? What other conduits connect and enhance the art mission, you know, and help us really connect to the soul of what our young people need?
That's a great question. And I'll try to answer it. I mean, to me, I think a shift in arts education is already started, but we want to push it along faster. And that shift is to thinking from preschool through 20, through the end of college, about art education being a place where students experience the creative process. Now, people always giggle when I'm like, we got to train arts educators to be creators. But folks know that are teaching in the arts that a lot of times we're training students to reproduce skills. Sometimes we're training them to reproduce things that already exist. And we've got to start training them to create, to take their own ideas. Students should be constantly, from pre-K through end of college. Students can still, of course, I'll speak just specifically about music. Yes, let's still learn the etudes. Let's play pieces by Scott Joplin and by Beethoven. Let's do all of that. But we also then have to be composing our own works. That's a requirement, right? So the same way in the English class, we write, we speak, we read. We got to be able to do that as artists. We got to be able to communicate in our art form. So dancers should be sure learning choreography from this great ballet, or learning some Alvin Ailey, and then also saying, okay, the theme of this Alvin Ailey piece is this. This piece is about the difference between darkness and lightness. What do you think about that? Okay, great. Please show us a movement phrase across the floor that shows us your idea, right? So every arts discipline should be doing that. And we're seeing teachers, just like everybody, just need sometimes permission. And to know that government policymakers are backing what they know is right. Because as soon as teachers go, I keep seeing like this envisioning of like, I just see like shackles lifting, right? As I go across sharing, right? And we do a lot of training at the State Department. Our Maryland micro-credential program trains teachers in this philosophy, but I see teachers' eyes light up and I see them go, I didn't know I could do that. The standards for arts education are new. Right? They were adopted in 2018. And these new state standards really emphasize the creative process. I did not know, and that's what I wrote a piece of music called Say Her Name last year. And that's connected to my girl choir work as well, because we started thinking about, an educational experience is an experience where students connect through the arts, respond to the arts, right? Perform the arts or produce the arts, but they also have to create art. When we're constantly delving in reproduction, I would say it's not an educational experience. And so at Sister Cities, we had to look at ourselves and say, this is not an educational experience. We were not composing works. The students were thinking deeply about pieces, beautiful pieces from their community and from all around the world, and figuring out, the essence of them and trying to communicate them back out beautifully, but they were never sharing their exact words or sound with the community. And so we had to shift. And we shifted so that by 2024, 50% of all of our repertoire will be original. And we met that goal early. We met it this year in 2021. Where this year, right, our choir sang 18 songs in this COVID season, and 9 of them were original works that they wrote in collaborative songwriting, original ideas. One of my favorite songs there was called Our Minds Are Not Minor. So there was a dialogue about teachers using the word minorities. All these teachers are now kind of talking more about race in schools, which we encourage, but using terminology sometimes, that kids are not comfortable with. Minorities was a word that they really wanted to push back on. They're like, I'm not a minority. First of all, I'm the global majority. And number 2, I'm not minor. I'm not minor. Wow. I'm major, right? So they wrote a song called Our Minds Are Not Minor. Our minds are not minor. Okay. So this idea of like allowing them to talk, have dialogue, share together, right? That feels so much like what we know how the artists that are our favorite artists, that feels so much like how we know they make art anyway, right? They get in the room with their friends in La Boheme is about that. The Harlem Renaissance is about that, right? We just watched that beautiful documentary on HBO where Faith Ringo was talking about how Jacob Lawrence wouldn't let her in to be in that circle, right? Exactly. Something like, but those collective spaces where people are dialoguing about art and life, and then people are saying, yeah, this is my thought about it. I'm going to make a piece of art about it and show it back to you. What do you think? That's really where all the vibrancy is. So, I'm seeing community arts organizations, a lot of them have been doing this work, and it's now time for public ed to shift to that. Let's prioritize voice and agency in our classrooms. The work should be the kids' ideas, and actually producing work should be secondary. So that doesn't mean stop doing Shakespeare and August Wilson. It doesn't mean stop doing it. It means do that. And then when do they get a chance to devise a play about the things that they care? So there has to be, of course, a balance, right? And in our best arts education programs, we see that happening. And in our best arts education programs, we sometimes don't. So we want to see, this balance of giving kids the space to create and share their own ideas. And I think that's about giving teachers permission and also sharing with teachers examples, because a lot of times teachers are like, I don't think my kids could come up with a song, or I don't think my kids could make their own movement. And I'm like, have you been in their communities?
Yeah.
Because
you got to unleash them. You got to set them free.
Because
got.
the kids do it at home. Yeah. You think your children can't come with a movement phrase in 8 counts? Have you seen children before? They can. They can.
And it instills a confidence in them when you give them the opportunity to. I always tell a story about 11th grade. Me and my boy Brian was in science, one of the science class. I can't remember if it was, where do you learn the periodic table? Which one? I was never good at
chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah. Chemistry. I think it's chemistry.
Okay.
Because it's. So we're in chemistry class. I was never good in science. I was never really interested. And so we're in chemistry class, and me and Brian are like messing around, banging on the table, rapping or whatever. And we had a teacher and a teacher's assistant, and the teacher, she was frustrated with us, like clearly, like not with it at all. But it was the
table in the middle of science class.
Yeah. Well, people were supposed to be working on, it was like she wasn't talking, but like everybody.
Okay, got it. It was like work.
Yeah, they were working on their stuff, and we just didn't care. You know what I mean? So we just like, and so I'll never forget. The teacher's assistant was Lisa Robinson, and she came over and she said, "I'm going to challenge y'all to something. Why don't you write a rap where you use the periodic table in the rap? So you don't have to do this what they're doing. Why don't y'all two come up with a rap about the periodic table?"
Wow.
And make that your project. And so that, for me, that one, it gave me a confidence that, well, she challenged me, and we rose to the challenge. We killed it. But then that it gave me a confidence about my writing. But then it also made me more interested in science, which I didn't expect. You know what I mean? And I don't remember the periodic table, but there's certain ones that I do. I'm like, oh, that's what you know what I mean?
You remember more than I remember. So I think that's fabulous, right? That's good teaching.
Yes. Yeah.
Teaching is about saying, okay, what is the skill that I need my kids to know? And I'm willing to let them communicate back to me what they know in different ways.
Yeah.
Assess differently. This kid can do it. You want to do a written test, fine. You want to write a rap, you want to write a play, you want to do, like, I just need to know that you know the information.
Yeah,
right?
true. Great teaching requires flexibility and vulnerability. Right. You have to be aware of what's happening in your surroundings and what's coming from above, and how to connect. And I like what you were saying. I love the example you gave, Eze, because I'm feeling that way about the art as it relates to all art forms, as it relates to, social and interpersonal skill building, as it relates to, being able to, do work on a team, collaborative, traits that we grow from when we collaborate together. Eze just mentioned confidence and validation, self-worth, also, family dynamics that come from that, seeing, of course, we know career lanes. So the arts are just not a throwaway. They're not just for educators and principals and leaders at the policymaking level or in districts just to decide it's something to stick kids in as a time filler. It's not recess. It is a very much, relatable and intricate and particular part of all of our development. It is the mission of LTYC that, we believe that every young person should have arts access from the age of 3 on up to 18, and in every phase of their lives. And so we know that, it's beautiful to exchange in that way. And so speaking of beautiful and speaking of exchange, God has blessed you with a beautiful instrument, your voice. Please just send us away in this show with just a little something. Give us a little taste of a song that's on your heart.
Yeah, I'd love to sing Say Her Name. Eze said he listened to a performance right before. So Say Her Name is a song I wrote. I just like many people, am usually at the marches and up in the space. And due to COVID, I was not able to participate. And instead of feeling sad and sorry for myself, I decided to take that emotion and put it into take those ideas and those emotions, put them into music, right? I wanted to share. I had what I tell my students, anytime you have a big emotion, you need to turn it, that's an opportunity for you to turn it into a musical experience, because we're musicians, right? And that's what we do. So this piece is called Say Her Name, and it's a tribute to Black women who have lost their lives due to police brutality.
Yes.
Say her name, say her name, say her name. She cannot be forgotten by us. Say her name, say her name, say her name, say her name. Put her name in the air. 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 Say her name. Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Say her name. Tatiana Jefferson. Say her name. Freddie Gray. Say his name. George Floyd.
Yeah.
Say his name. Put their names in the air. 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 Say their names.
Wow.
Awesome. I'm sucked in already on that.
Yes.
That's awesome. Powerful. That was great. That's a great, hey, this was the show about tomorrow. We're always talking about the issues that happening today that impact our tomorrow, the future of the Black families in Baltimore, the great, the wonderful, the amazing Alicia Lee.
Y'all are so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Hope you have a wonderful, great rest of your weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the weather. This weekend. This is the weather we wanted last weekend here in Baltimore for Memorial Day.
It's beautiful outside today. It's beautiful. Right. Thank you both so much for having me on. I feel so grateful to be able to be here with you all today, spend some time with you, talk about my work, and also learn from both of you today. So thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Likewise. All right, guys, be safe. Baltimore, y'all go get some crabs this weekend.
Let's go.
Peace. God bless.
Peace.